Pesach Sameach to everybody. And also, I just want to say again one more time, thank to everybody that made the Pesach a success. All right, I'm very grateful, and we give all the glory to the Holy One, blessed be He, for all His love, for His protection, and for His guardian, for His peace, for His joy, and for making us to remember this particular day. That on this particular day, the Lord took us out from the land of Israel in our legion. He took us out. He said, enough is enough. Enough of slavery. Enough of suffering. Enough of the stupidity. Now you are going to be my people, and I'm going to be your God. We give glory to His name for everything that He has done in our life. So, as I said, I'm just going to give us a little speech this morning about the Pesach. And this morning I actually subtitle this Pesach message about what is the significance of the number 4. What with the number 4 and the song Dayenu? Why do we have everything in the Agada of Pesach 4? Why is this number 4? So God is going to explain unto us in more details. At the Seder, that is at the Seder of Pesach, we drink 4 cups of wine. We ask 4 questions, and we read about 4 sons. What is the significance of the number 4? Why that number? Why 4? The rabbis discusses the number 4 initially in the context of the 4 cups. The 4 cups that we normally drink during the Seder of Pesach. The 4 cups correspond to the 4 expressions of redemption that God uttered. The rabbi explains that the nation of Israel was subjugated threefold. Firstly, they were in exile as a stranger in a strange land. Secondly, not only were they in exile, but they were enslaved in exile. And lastly, not only were they enslaved, but they were tortured physically and mentally. God first told us that He would take us out from under the burden of Egypt, which Egypt has placed upon us. God then told us that we will be saved from the slavery of Egypt. And finally, God told us that we will be redeemed. This will bring the nation to a point where they will not be persecuted in exile as a slave. But what would they be? That is the point of the 4th expression. And I will take them to me as a nation. The nation will not just be a nation, but it's going to be a nation with purpose. A nation that is a reason why God took them out from the land of Israel. And what is this purpose? It's going to be a nation of common goal. A unified nation. No longer individually, but collectively. We need to understand the mentality of the Eastern world, the mentality of our rabbis, the mentality of our people. Our people always look at the holistic pictures. We don't think on the atom base, The atomic base is the Greek mentality. The Greek mentality, their mentality is point A to point B. And the Hebrew mentality is secular, is holistic. We don't divide. The Greek mentality, they divide until the minute, and they keep on dividing. And God is saying, you can no longer be divided. No. You should always see yourself as one, as holistic. Because your life matters to my life. My life matters to your life. We are intertwined. Because nowadays they tell you, oh, it's my life, it doesn't concern you. A son will come to the father, Father, I don't want to hear anything. It is my life, I want to do with it as I want. That is wrong. Because if anything happens to the son, it will affect the father. It will affect the mama. It will affect the brothers and the sister if he has anyone. But to him, he doesn't think that way because of the Western civilization. Because he or she has been brainwashed that it is my life, I can do with it whatsoever I want to do. But God is saying, no, it is not your life, it is our life. We are all intertwined, we are one in this ship. This ship that is not individual, we are one in this ship. And if the ship collapses, everybody is going down. So we have to save the ship. That is what God is saying. That if we can look at it from that perspective, from that picture, not just my life, I can do whatever I want to do. Hey, this is total freedom. No. There's nothing like that in the Torah. That is a devilish system that wants to tell the people, oh, you are free, and you can do whatever you want to do. Yes, you are free in the garden. The Torah is like a garden. In that, within that garden, you are free to do whatsoever you want to do. But outside the garden is a danger. You can't go outside the garden. The Lord our God knows the reason why He gave us that fence. So we are free within the garden. We can do whatever we want to do within the context of the Torah. But outside that, no, we can't. So, the fourth expression brings us to the level of fullness and completion. Israelites were no longer just a large group of people, they were a true nation. You remember, 70 souls left to Egypt. When the Torah talk about the 70 souls, that doesn't mean there were 70 people, no. The Torah is just saying the men. We need to understand that the Torah was written in the language of men. So the female were not counted. There were female among them, but only the men were counted. So there were 70 men that moved from the land of Canaan to the land of Egypt. And God, after 430 years, God multiplied them highly. And the Egyptians became jealous of them. Maybe you can remind me where you've seen that again. It always happens. When we grow, when we come to a particular land, that is our history. History do repeat itself. That is who we are. We are like a shepherd moving from one place to another. But God has promised us our own land, our own home, which is in the land of Israel, the city of David, Jerusalem, where the temple of God, the Shekinah, the Most High, is abiding. We move from one place to another because of our disobedience. God said, I'm going to scatter you if you guys does not listen and obey the Torah which I've given you. People say it is too hard. What? The Torah is not hard. We human beings makes it hard. We add and we make the Torah difficult. If it is hard, our God will not give it unto us. God is not a wicked God to give us things that we cannot do. He knows that we can do it. He knows that we can perform it. That is why He gave us the Torah. And when people start complaining, it is hard, it's hard, it's hard. He said, okay, you think it's hard? I am going to send you another prophet. Moshe said, another prophet will come after me. Him you shall listen to. I'm going to show you another prophet. I'm going to send you another prophet that is going to show you the way of the Torah. He is going to be the Torah in the flesh. And that is Mashiach. I'm going to send you Yeshua HaMashiach to show you the direction of the Torah. So that you don't have even to say, it's not a rocket science. This is not a rocket science. Just follow. That is it. He has shown us the way, our job, just to follow. Easy. Yes, the flesh is weak, but the spirit is willing. The flesh will come and start disturbing you in different ways. The flesh will say, no, go this way. Don't follow, this way is too tiny. There is no room. I want to enjoy myself. There is no room. As Yeshua said, the road is a tiny road that leads to the kingdom. And the other road is a wide road that leads to destruction. So the road is tiny. It's not as comfortable as that. You have to squeeze yourself in. Yes, but it's for a reason. Because this flesh cannot see God. It is the spirit that can see God. So we have to do what? We have to remove the hames that God is saying on the Pesach. The pride. Hames, the yeast, is like a pride, you know. When you put it in the dough rise. And God is saying, we have to remove pride. God hates the proud man. A man that is very proud of himself. Say, if by my power I get all these things. There's nothing that you have by your power. All things that a man has is given to him from above. We have nothing. Nothing belongs to us. Everything belongs to him. Blessed be his name. So that is what the Holy One, blessed be his name, is talking about. We don't have anything in this world. Everything that we own, everything that we have is given to us as a loan. The life that you have, your soul is a loan. The energy in your life is a loan. And when the time comes, the Holy One, blessed be he, the time for him to request it, he requests it back because it is not yours. He just gives it to you as a loan. So why are you being proud? Why are you being pompous? You know? Why are you saying, oh, I have everything, it's mine. Nothing is yours. Everything belongs to him. The number four signify this completion, the fullness. The nation of Israel became full and complete under the fulfillment of the fourth utterance of redemption. This fourth and final stage is in the development of the children of Israel as a nation. We are just a group of what? Of a shepherd. 70 shepherds left to Mizraim. But after 450 years they became a nation. So the question now is, why did God allow that slavery? Remember in the covenant of the past, when God spoke with Abraham about circumcision, God told him, surely your descendants shall go into slavery. Your descendant will be a slave in a strange land that they do not know. They will serve a tongue that they do not know. But after many years I will come and I will redeem them, and that nation I will judge. So another point now is, when you see a child of God suffering, when you see a child of God under punishment by his father, do not laugh at him. When you see a child of God being flogged by his father, by God himself, do not laugh at him. Because when you laugh at him, his God will remember him and he will judge you. You see how complex it is? When you laugh at him, you make mockery of him. His God will remember him. Remember, he's a child of God. His God, his father will remember him. And his God will judge you. God has already said, they are going to be a slave in a strange land. But that land, I will judge them. So the point is that, was Egypt at fault? Of course, Egypt is at fault. Because they have the power, they have the strength, but they did not consider God. They were not merciful. Because you are millionaires, because you are billionaires, because you have all the political powers, because they are the prime ministers, you begin to oppress the poor. The widows, you don't give a damn. The fatherless, oh, let them suffer because they don't have a father. You know, the homeless, they say, oh, let them sleep in the sun. I won't build them no houses. Even though you have the money, even though the country has the power to do all those things, but because you are greedy, because you are evil, you know, because of that negativity, he said, I will not do this. They are not my own people, I don't care. Let them suffer. That is wickedness. And that is what God is judging. You see? Can you see the point now? This Egyptian was the superpower in those days, but in their time, just like the United States that we have now. No country under the sun can stand Egypt. Egypt was so powerful that anywhere they go, they conquer. They have all the means. Why? Because the children of Israel were living in the land. Because of the children of Israel, God was blessing Mizraim, but their kings, their leader, they don't understand that, or they never understood that point. When Israel moved out, the blessing moved with them, and Egypt became a desolate land. maybe in recent time, let me just go ahead again in Babylon. We can see the same thing happen when we were enslaved in Babylon. Babylon was a prosperous city. When we left, it became a desolate land. In the recent time, during our time now, Germany was before even Germany, Spain was one of the most successful nations in Western Europe because of the Jews. They were living there. Until when one stupid man came out and said, "Oh no, let's rise against them." You know, these people are stupid people. They marry too much wives. They come and they are barbaric people. They come and take animals and start slaughtering animals for Pesach. No. This is uncivilized. You know, you need to go to the abattoir, right? They call it abattoir, the slaughterhouse. You don't do like that to the animals. You know, this is barbaric. You know, they start rising against them, start killing them. Oh, if you don't believe in Jesus, we kill you. And people say we don't believe in Jesus. Your Jesus that you made in your own image. For God is not a man. That is what the Torah said. God is not a man that he will change, nor the Son of Man that is going to repent. God is a spirit. He's not a man. Why do you want to give us the image of a man and give it to us as a God? We will not accept that because our Torah said God is not a man. Yeshua is a prophet. Yeshua is a Messiah. Why are you presenting Messiah as God? That is different between Messiah and God. Why are you combining everything and make a soup and give it to us, and you want us to eat this dirty soup? We won't eat it. And they begin to kill them. They all left. Spain became a desolate land. Germany again. Everything was successful in Germany. Technology, advanced technology. The Jews were the doctors, were the lawyers, were the physicists, were everything that done there. The country was prospering until one stupid man came and said, "German, wake up! Why do you allow the Jews to rule you? Why do you allow the Jews are all the doctors? The Jews are all the lawyers. The Jews are all the physicists. Everything is about the Jews. They make all the money. They're all the bankers. They are ruling you everything. Wake up! Let's deal with them." They face the consequence. So that is what God is saying. When you persecute them, God will save them, but God will come and judge you. So that is the point. And this has been our history from the beginning. Even though in Ethiopia, when Ethiopia was prospering during the kings, we were the advisor. We were everything. Oh, the Jews were too much in the land. The indigenous Ethiopians. No, let's kill them. They occupy everywhere. They occupy all the land. They start killing us. We all ran to the mountain. We ran and hide down. And what happened? Ethiopia became a desolate land. It is like that. You should. What do you persecute? The anointed of God. And God was said that my prophet you shall do no harm. That was he told Abraham. He who bless you, I will bless. He who curses you, I will curse. So people, it's time for them to wake up to understand that Israel is not just a nation, but Israel is the son of God. Israel is the firstborn of God. And Israel has a unique relationship with the Holy One. Because on Mount Sinai, the first time in the history of human, that a God will come down and speak and all will listen. It's not like someone went to go and worship their gods and say, okay, this is what the God said. No. On Mount Sinai, everybody heard what the Holy One said. Blessed be He. Everybody, the children, the men, the women, everybody, listen, the first time in the history of human race that God will descend and speak to men face to face. And they listen and they obey and they say, all what you said we shall do and we shall obey. And they sign that contract. And that contract is an everlasting contract. It's a bond that bond them together with their Creator. So this is what the Creator he said, if you love them, if you keep them, if you protect them, I will bless you, I will protect you, I will do everything unto you. But if you persecute them and say, oh, because they sin against their God, because their God is punishing them now. Let me punish them more. Then their God will remember them, He will save them, and their God will come and judge you. Then you come the bad egg. So that is what God is saying. You shall be compassionate. That is what I want to say. When you see a child of God suffering, you shall not laugh at him or at her. Rather, you shall be compassionate. You shall be merciful, and you shall be gracious unto them. Then God will remember you, and God will bless you. Because when he was suffering, when he was in need, when he was in pain, you remember him. And you are not wicked unto him. And God will bless you and bless him in return. So, and what about this word that we normally say during the Pesach, the song that we call Dayenu? What is about the song? The song is about gratitude. About saying, God, thank you for everything that you have done for us, or for me. Because even though you took us out of the land of Egypt, that would have been enough. I mean, it's a 50-50 thing. That would have been enough, but that was not enough. But you took us out of Egypt. Not only taking us out of Egypt, you also opened the Red Sea. You provided us with manna. You gave us rain. You took us from the wilderness down to the land of our forefathers. You gave us all these things through your mercy, through your love. Remember, the Holy One, blessed be He, is love. His love is gracious. And He loved you and me. He loved us so much that He said, come, let us discuss. That's the Creator Himself. If we see every time we argue, you see, God Himself said, I am tired of this argument. Let's come, let's discuss together like grown-up men. Lay down your request. Lay down your argument, and I will lay down my own argument, and let us discuss together. Let's discuss together. Let's talk. Let's talk. Stop fighting and quarreling. I want to discuss with you. If you come, if you are willing, and always here, God is unchangeable. It's always there. It is men or we, the man, that always run away. God is always there. And He's saying that if you love me, I presented before you this day life and death. That's all about the Torah. Everything in the Torah is balanced. God is not like this. God is not like this. Just like this. All balanced. You choose life. And I advise you as your creator, I advise you as your father to take life, because I am life. God is life. God wants us to choose life. God doesn't want us to do what? To choose death. Slavery is death. Why do we want to continue to suffer slavery under sin? Why do we want to continue to suffer slavery under the thing that does not pay? You see, men, they think that the amount of work that they work make them to prosper. There's one particular saying that if you work hard, you become wealthy. That is not the way it is. It's not by you working hard that you become prosperous. It's by you working very smart. There's difference between working hard and working smart. The slave work hard and they become there's no prosperity in them. Like they have to do exactly what their master said. But the master work very smart. He doesn't do the actual job, but it designates that job to the slave. His own is to imagine, is to think. It's a mental work. It's okay. Let's say, for example, building of the house. The architect, his brain works like a computer. It's a computer, and they're like laborers. Their job, they don't think. Their job is to do exactly what the architect has designed down. Okay, the architect said this, I go to do it. Okay, you pay them, they put the brick, and they mold it. Their job is hard. But the job of the architect is even more harder. Because why? Because he has to use his mental brain. He designed everything, but he doesn't stay in the sun. He's in his work, in his office, because he works very smart. He's in his office designing the window, the dimension, the feet, the meters to the minute, because if you make a mistake, the house might collapse. So he has to concentrate perfectly well to make sure that everything is done perfectly well. While the slave, they build it. So God is saying, it's not by 20 hours that you spend at your work that make you prosper. It is me that prosper you. So people, they work all their life and they have nothing to show for it because they do not keep the Shabbat. God said, you are going to walk, you are going to grow and grow, fat, and you know what God will do? It's like a balloon. You blow it, you grow big, you are happy. God will just watch you, God will be looking at you. Okay, continue, do your job, continue. When you go big, you know what God will do? You know, a pin. But it's too late because you think that you are smart. God is saying, keep the Shabbat. It's an everlasting covenant between me and you. You see, oh no, but if I go to work on the Shabbat, you know, this is 12 hours job and I'm being paid $500 an hour. If you calculate this $500 an hour by 8, oh man, it's a lot of money. Oh no, I cannot lose it. I have to go to work. And you disobey the Shabbat or you disobey God. God will look at you and watch you. You big. He'll punch it for you. But when you obey God and you keep the Shabbat, if you have $10, God will multiply that $10 to millions of dollars just because you obey the Shabbat. Shabbat is very important, and that is a commandment that God has given us on that very day that we left. You shall rest. You shall keep the Shabbat. You shall keep the Pesach. For this day, you left the land of Egypt. For God is telling us for these days, God is taking us out from the land of sin, from the land of slavery. Many of us are slavery to our flesh. We are slavery to the body. The body tells you, go do this. You don't even think twice. You jump. Boom. We go and do it because we are slave to the flesh. But God is saying it is time that we should waken up. It is time for us to concentrate on the spirit, because the flesh profit nothing. The flesh is going to go back to where it comes from. But the soul, your life, is more important. That is God has given. What are you going to say before Him on the last day? Remember, He said, he who believes in me, I will raise him up on the last day. He who believes in me. What does that mean? To believe. To trust. Even though you don't know him, but you trust. Abraham had the voice. Take your son, your only son. Go sacrifice him. If Abraham was a kind of a man that we have now, he said, oh, no, let me go and ask my wife, because everything the wife has to know. Let me go and ask my wife. What is my wife thinking? No, what is my wife going to think about this situation? Of course, your wife will say you are mad. Your wife will say, okay, no, the next thing I have to do is to call the hospital because my husband is getting numb. My husband is having psychiatric problem. How can your God tell you to go and kill my own son? This is the only son I have, and you're telling me to go and kill him. Are you all right? Abraham listened to the voice of God. He kept his wife. There is a relationship between me and my God, and a relationship between me and my wife. There are two different relationships. They're not the same. But now we mix everything in together in one soup. He did according to what God told him. And what is God trying to tell Abraham? God was trying to show him that life and death is in his hand. That he is able to resurrect. Even though if Isaac was dead, I, the Lord, will bring him up. God showed Abraham that I am the God of life. That everything that happens in this universe is under my control. So if we understand that, and if we know that, we will be grateful, because nothing coincident or can happen, or just nothing happens like that to his children, because he is always aware. So as you know that you are the child of God, we are the children of God is always before us. It's always protecting us. It's always guiding us. There is no coincidence to the things of God, to to his children, because everything is planned out from the beginning. So that is the message of elevation that I want to elevate us with this morning, because the Pesach is very important. He said to jump. That's the meaning of Pesach, to jump. What are we jumping? To jump into freedom. We jump from death into life. We jump from lack into blessing. Because you remember, they were lacking in Egypt. They were suffering. There was no food. But God blessed them. And God said, jump. The sea is in the front. The Egyptian is at the back. And God is telling them, jump into the sea. So, why are you telling me to jump? The sea is here. If I jump into the sea, I'm going to be drowned. If I go back, the Egyptian will kill me. The Israelites are right in the center, right in the middle, between fry pan and fire. But to you, it seems like it's a fire, but it's not. Only if you believe. That is exactly what Yeshua is saying. And that's what God is telling us. Only if you trust, all things shall be good. In your eyes, it seems that it is very hot. In your eyes, in the eyes of men, it seems, oh, it doesn't make sense. But in the eyes of God, it makes sense. When they jump, the sea divide. When they put their hope, they put their trust, their life in His hand. They say, you know what, God? If I die, I die. If I survive, I survive. My life is in your hands. I commit everything to your hand. They jump. And God shows them on that day that He is God, the God of heaven and earth. He divided the sea and they passed through. And the Bible and the Torah said they walk on the dry land. What does that mean? The sea was wet. They walk on the dry land. In the other midrashim, it's actually saying that the children of Israel, their foot does not even touch the seabed. God in Himself lifted them up upon His wings. They were walking in the air, for God lifted them up. So there is nothing the Holy One cannot do. Only if you believe. Only if you trust. Do not doubt. Oh, I don't know. Let me think about it. Let me use my human understanding. The human understanding cannot compare with the understanding of God. You cannot use the human understanding sometimes to explain what happens in the spirit. But when God is telling you, go ahead, do not be afraid. Because He tells you to go ahead. He's going to protect you, He's going to guide you, He's going to bless you, He's going to keep you. That's why I say, go ahead. Do not doubt, just follow Him. Abraham did not doubt God, he followed and he saw the blessing. So likewise, this morning God is telling us that we should not doubt Him. That we should put our hope, our trust, our everything in His hand. He is there to defend us. He is there to keep us. He is there to sustain us. He is there to open the windows of heaven and pour us blessing until there is no room to contain it. Shabbat shalom.
Shabbat shalom.